There are really two main ways to interpret this picture, positive and negative. And we saw it in all contexts, but the truth is that it was just a bit of fun for the photographer. We're still seeing it published today. It's so impactful.
800,000 images from 500 plus photographers sent out to clients around the world. It's been an extraordinary year for Reuters photographers, having to deal with the added complexity, of course, and worry of shooting pictures, often in large crowds during a pandemic. Rickey Rogers is global editor for Reuters Pictures and joins us now. Has the pandemic, working in this environment, impacted the sort of pictures we got this year? Are photographers shooting differently in a context, for example, in which they're having to social distance?
It was a unique news year for everybody because there was one main story that stretched out across most of the year with other stories in the middle. But the truth is that other stories, the main stories like the US election and Black Lives Matter, they were all characterized as well by the fact that the photographers had to protect themselves from COVID during that coverage. I was very, very impressed by the fact that coverage was as intimate, as close as ever, and really very few of our photographers contracted the virus.
Well, look, let's take a look at some of these pictures, and I know it must be very, very hard for you to pick out your most memorable among so many wonderful images. But we've got 5 here to look at, and I want to start with this picture of President Trump. I guess it's not hard to see why this picture is so effective, right?
It's a stunning picture, and the photographer Tom Brenner was actually having a bit of fun with this picture. He was at a massive rally, one of the biggest ones in the 6 weeks leading up to the election in Jacksonville, Florida. And he noticed the flag waving. It was hanging from a crane. It was waving sort of in rhythm with the president's speech. And he lined it up with the flag. He moved to a position where he could do that in a humorous fashion. Of course, anything having to do with Trump is politicized, and it was used in many ways. But there are really two main ways to interpret this picture, positive and negative. And we saw it in all sort of contexts. But the truth is that it was just a bit of fun for the photographer. We're still seeing it published today. It's so impactful.
Second picture here, a 2-year-old girl painting her father's toenails in Italy while her mother looks out from a balcony. Why does this one resonate so much with you?
There's a whole backstory to this. So Marzio Toniolo is a school teacher in Italy. And our team in Rome found him on social media and contacted him. And he started selling us, or giving us pictures, actually, until we finally contracted and put him on contract as a stringer. But his pictures are just so wonderful, and he was locked down with 4 generations of his family in basically in ground zero of the COVID outbreak in Europe, in Italy specifically, and they lived closed in. It wasn't like some other places where they talk about lockdowns, where people could go out and walk around, but in this part of Italy, they couldn't go out of their homes. And his series of pictures, not just this picture, but almost all of his pictures were just stunning, beautiful pictures of family life, very calm and very beautiful, but very, very emotional.
The third picture, I'm guessing this is a drone picture, decommissioned cruise ships at the breaking yard. Again, a pretty dramatic image, this one.
One of the challenges was to show the magnitude of the economic impact of COVID. And it was in the news for quite a while, but in terms of the overall population that affected, it wasn't that big compared to the general population. But the impact on the industry was huge, and there was an opportunity for photographer Umit Bektas to cover this and access the shipyard, and they were just tearing down these ships. It's just stunning pictures, beautiful aesthetically, but also very telling in terms of the economic fallout.
Picture number 4, Rickey, is it's a moving picture, but it gets a whole lot more moving when you know the backstory, right?
Right. So the person in the picture is an activist, a Filipino activist named Reyna Mai Nasino. She was arrested, and while she was in prison, she gave birth to a child, and the child was taken away from her. and she was handed over to the grandmother, and the child got sick and died. And activist Nasina was not allowed to see the child while she was sick. She was allowed to go to the funeral. The funeral turned out to be a madhouse of activist sympathizers and police and journalists, and they raced to the cemetery. And this is a picture that Eloisa Lopez captured amidst the mayhem. It's just a beautiful picture. It has the symbols of the handcuff and the PPE, which means the suit and the gloves to protect her against COVID, and then the flower. And it just draws you into the story.
The final picture that you've chosen, this is at the anti-government protests in Iraq. And this, I understand, is in January of 2020.
This was sort of towards the tail end of months of protests in Iraq, anti-government protests. This picture is like a movie set, although it was during a very violent moment. But in the midst of this smoke from burning tires, Abdullah Daya Al-Din, the photographer, captured this, spotted this person just walking quietly through the smoke. And the smoke surrounding him in this way is just stunning. It's just a beautiful picture. And I think that I chose it just because of that.
And just to finish up, Rickey, how do you decide, given the number of pictures coming in from 500 plus photographers, what to run and what to hold back on a daily basis? I mean, how do you make those decisions? What do you base those decisions on?
The photographers generally make the edit. They make the choice of which pictures. We have editors that will help with cropping, and they will prepare the captions and prep the pictures to go out. But the truth is, it's the photographers that make the choice, and the photographers learn over time. I mean, a new photographer is generally mentored into learning how to edit their own pictures. It's not an easy process, and it's much harder for photographers themselves to edit their own work than it is for an editor that's more removed from the story to edit a photographer's work. In general, it's like that. Why that is, we don't know, but the photographers are sometimes too close to the story, and maybe have a picture that they thought includes the elements they were looking for, and it may not. But we look for aesthetics and we look for content in the end. The aesthetics will help the picture to get published for sure, but it's the content, the news elements, the content that tells the story, that's 50% of the picture.
Okay, very good. Rickey, look, thank you so much for talking with us today. Super pictures, as I said. It's a shame we could only show a few of them. Rickey Rogers, Global Editor for Reuters Pictures. Thank you very much indeed.